Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. Let's talk some football and nonsense. Happy Wednesday to you all. I just realized in the description I put that this is Tuesday, but no, it is Wednesday, and I'm a little thrown off because obviously last night had a great show live and on location with Spokane's very own semi-pro team, the Wolfpack. That was a lot of fun. In case you missed it, go and check it out. You can do so in podcast form. It's available like they all are immediately following the live broadcast, and that is on iTunes, SoundCloud, and of course iHeartRadio. I sat down with the boys and some of the coaches, a lot of first-timers to have them on the show, and it was a great time. Talked about the upcoming season, talked about some football and everything else. The guys are excited. First team meeting of 2018 for them, so they're all looking forward to their chance to get out there and compete. Great group of guys. Very happy to be a part of it to the capacity that I am. Travis, the owner, he's been real good to me and the show, and it was a fun season last year. It's going to be even better this year, but enough about last night. We did have a special start time, so everything seems kind of new to me tonight. I'm in Tuesday mode, and it's Wednesday. So let's go ahead and get to the headlines. Congratulations, Seattle Seahawks fans, or I guess more specifically, my friend Jeremy Funk. We just talked about it on the show last week when he was here before he went back home from vacation. And he's like, man, if this losing season does anything for us, I hope it's a wake-up call and that we can get rid of the people we need to, specifically Darrell Bevell. Well, hallelujah, amen. Someone upstairs was listening because Seahawk fans, I've read the tweets, I've seen the trends. It is pretty much a collective feeling of celebration. Darrell Bevell has been relieved of his duties as offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, of course, we will begin the search for a replacement. It also was reported today that their defensive coordinator does not need to or will not be held to the last year of his contract. He's free to speak to other programs and teams if he wants. Seattle defensive coordinators, they have been pretty much the hot commodity as far as head coaching vacancies go. Dan Quinn was one. And what he did with the Falcons was a great thing, and they're back in the playoffs now. They have a matchup coming up against the Philadelphia Eagles, but we'll talk about that a little later on. So right now, as far as the Seattle Seahawks go, their search begins for their new offensive coordinator. Some speculation that it will, in fact, be filled by none other than offensive line coordinator or offensive line coach Tom Cable, former head coach of the Oakland Raiders way back in the day. And let's see here what else. Yeah, the Seahawks, this is from the Seahawks official Twitter. The Seahawks have relieved offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell and assistant head coach, offensive line coach Tom Cable of their coaching duties this afternoon. So I immediately retract what I just said about it possibly being Tom Cable. He is out as well. That was an hour ago via the Seahawks Twitter. And let's see here. What else have we got? Antonio Brown was a full practice participant and looked amazing, like he hasn't skipped a beat, according to teammate Juju Smith-Schuster. That was official Twitter of Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. Let's see what else we've got here, if anything. Rich Gannon told 957 The Game that he won't be Raiders QB coach. I came to my senses on a flight to Oakland Tuesday. Didn't want to match Gruden's intensity and time commitment the position requires. So I don't know what that means for Derek Carr. I still think he's a legitimate quarterback. He's a quarterback that the lower tier of the NFL would die to have. Cleveland, Indianapolis, obviously, with Andrew Luck, his future being in question. I would even go so far as to say the Jaguars would like to have him right now. They were a number 3 seed. They're advanced to the divisional round of the playoffs. And I bet there's a lot of people in Jacksonville and a lot of people around the NFL that believe Derek Carr could do a better job than Blake Bortles. Now, my hesitation to go all in and say Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Blake Bortles is the simple fact that he did not have his best year this year. He was MVP candidate last year, and that, of course, ended tragically with an injury towards the end of the season, much like we saw what happened with Carson Wentz this year. What that means for Carson Wentz next year, I don't know. I knew that he would be one of the better second-year quarterbacks, better than Dak Prescott, better than Jared Goff. He was almost better than Jared Goff, but of course the injury cut that short. So Jared Goff, I don't think we're going to worry about him. Carson Wentz, I don't think we have reason to worry about him, but Derek Carr, is he the issue? Is it the coaching? What is Gruden going to do? He had Rich Gannon his first time in Oakland. They went to the Super Bowl. So I think as long as he has confidence in his players, that's the number one thing. The players have confidence in Gruden. That's not a question, okay? But to have confidence in your players, specifically at the quarterback position, that's going to go miles and miles and pay dividends if you truly believe your quarterback can do what you want them to do. So that'll be kind of a waiting game. I don't know what Derek Carr's contract looks like right now. I don't know how long he's supposed to be in Oakland for. But I do know that it's still as good a time as ever if you're going to trade a quarterback for something of value. He's still got enough value. He's probably about the same level bargaining chip as what Washington has with Kirk Cousins right now. They didn't have their best years. I think I boldly predicted that Kirk Cousins would have one of his best years, and he was just one shy of everything I predicted, 4,000 yards instead of 5,000. Then he threw 10 interceptions instead of 9, and I think 30. I picked 30 touchdowns. He had 27. So, yeah, he had a really good year. The team, though, however, did not. And I don't know what Washington is going to do regarding Kirk Cousins, but that would be my comparison right there as far as you look around the league. What is Derek Carr's skill set and value? Kirk Cousins. And that's across the pond on the NFC, if that makes any sense. But that would be where I would draw my comparison. Let's see here. Steelers cornerback Artie Burns left practice after suffering a non-contact right knee injury. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, Pittsburgh's defense is already suffering without the presence of Ryan Shazier back there, but their secondary has been very good in stepping up to fill that void. How much will this hurt if he's unable to play? Titans running back per Field Yates, DeMarco Murray, is out for Saturday's game against the Patriots. So I don't know if that means that Tennessee has no chance now, if it's all going to be put on the shoulders of Marcus Mariota. Could be dangerous if it's put on the shoulders of Marcus Mariota. We saw that last week against Kansas City when the man did everything, it seemed like. Devin Huber, who is a member of the Spokane Wolfpack, him and I talked about his Titans last night on the show. That was a lot of fun. Great insight. He believes in Mariota. And Tua, name I can't pronounce for the last name, who is going to be Alabama's new quarterback, I believe, that won them a national championship. In case you missed it, we discussed that last night. Walk-off touchdown in overtime, and it was a 2nd and 26, and this true freshman comes out of nowhere to save the day. First time we've talked about an Alabama quarterback saving the day to that degree. Crazy stuff. Crazy. Giants interviewed former Broncos assistant head coach and running back coach Eric Stoodsville for their head coaching job today. Former Buccaneers kicker Roberto Aguayo is signing with the Chargers. Chargers, you're begging me to either put you on the list or give you an off-season butt fumble award. I mean, God, winter team's going to get it. Now, okay, I've mentioned on the show before. Here's the thing about this, folks. All right, let's have a little talk about why I find this so humorous. I am always about players to an extent. There have been exceptions, okay, and I feel like those don't really need to be pointed out every exception. But for example, Hardy, right? We did not need to see Greg Hardy back in the NFL. When it comes to a situation and a player like that, Michael Vick did the time because he did the crime, right? So did the crime, did the time, came back, was sorry about it. Greg Hardy was none of that. And yeah, it's all about the legal system and what loopholes you can jump through, but I felt he had no business being anywhere near a football or out on the football field as a role model to young minds that are watching this wanting to grow up and be football players. So in instances like Greg Hardy, I don't feel that they deserve a second chance. Now, when it comes to literally like every other player out there, I do think that a lot deserve a second chance, and I'm more than happy to be proven wrong because I feel of all the times to be proven wrong, that's one of the best ways to be proven wrong, is that way that somebody that you doubted comes back or out of nowhere and just does it, gets the job done. And Roberto Aguayo, I feel like he's had a second and a third chance, and this is going to be his fourth. And I know guys that haven't gotten their second chance at all yet. So my feelings towards someone like Roberto Aguayo is like, okay, if he signs with the Chargers, which he has, and he crushes it, good for him. But if he doesn't, stop it. NFL teams, just stop it. I've got a Rolodex full of kickers that could go out there and probably perform as good, better, if not twice as better as these guys that you're signing that are just, getting passed around from team to team because they have a roster spot to fill. The Roberto Aguayo thing, I don't know if I will ever understand. So, hey, Chargers, good luck, I guess. It is what it is. In Browns news, this one was a big one. Elliott Wolf picked the Browns over the Packers and Raiders and will rejoin general manager John Dorsey in Cleveland, sources told ESPN, which that's a big move for the Browns. That's putting the right minds in the right places. Who knows what 2018 could have in store for the Browns then if they start building from the ground up where they need to build from the ground up at. And I don't believe that that's the quarterback position. I believe that starts in the front office. Darrell Bevell fired, and Marcus Mariota, who knew Tua Tagovailoa since the Alabama freshman quarterback was in fourth grade, said he's proud of his fellow Hawaiian. So that's that's good for the state of Hawaii, right? We've got to look far and wide for talent, and we have found talent far and wide. Chiefs have named Eric Bieniemy offensive coordinator. They've promoted from within, so that's always good. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up as far as the breaking news and headlines that have happened since the last time we spoke. And I have a special guest tonight, James Coe from NFL Network and Fantasy Live. He was able to give me some time out of his busy day, and so that was a lot of fun. But it's onward and upward. We've got 2 rounds of playoffs left, and then the Super Bowl, and then NFL football is over, and indoor football is going to just be getting started. Also breaking news, there has been a lawsuit filed against the West Michigan Ironmen as well as the Bloomington Edge of the now Indoor Football League from the CIF, the Champions Indoor Football League, their old league, regarding that they're in breach of contract. And so now their seasons appear to be in somewhat jeopardy. But as far as all social media accounts go and everything that I see being tweeted and posted, it looks like business as usual in West Michigan and Bloomington, Illinois. And now we will get down to the legalities of everything. They will lawyer up, and we will see them in the courtroom. It's drama that you wish wasn't happening right now, because if these two teams should have to suspend their 2018 operations and season, you have that many guys on not one but two rosters that are left to the wind that don't get probably won't get a chance to compete this year because of issues like this. So I don't know how many times we got to say it, but look, I'm a big fan of the indoor game. The players and the coaches I've developed fantastic relationships with. I love the guys. I really do. They're great people just looking for an opportunity. And hey, I can respect the hell out of that because me here behind this microphone, all I'm looking for is an opportunity too. Now, I've sort of taken my fate into my own hands, and now I have a show that I do all myself. My business card has so many slashes on it as far as founder, producer, host, CEO, director, assistant, stenographer, all that. But I am still looking for the opportunity to make this show the best that it can be and take it to the next level. And for 2018, I have started to do that by getting accepted to Full Sail University. I'll be part of the first class of people to do the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting program there at Full Sail, and I am thrilled. And I don't even think that's the word that could best describe it, but I am beyond thrilled for this opportunity. So Full Sail University, Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, I'm going to be one of the first, and I'm going to crush this thing. So 2018, get ready, because this is where the next chapter of this story begins. So back to what I was saying about the IFL, the CIF, the NAL. The IFL and CIF were in talks about a merger, something that it's a word that's like the punchline or the butt of a lot of jokes in the indoor community, but this offseason it came very close to actually happening. And although I support the leagues, I do not support the nonsense that goes on, like what's happening with West Michigan and Bloomington. And all I have to say to this right now, to anyone in a position that it matters, that has any say in what goes on with these two leagues and the sit-down conversations that they have, all I have to say to them is that if a merger happened, none of this would be happening. There would be no courtroom, there would be no lawyers, there would be no seasons in jeopardy if a damn merger would have just happened. Put the egos aside and think about your players, think about your front office, your interns, the jobs that you provide with these seasons and these teams. Put them all aside and just sit down, adult, and make it happen. Because if a merger would have happened, none of this would have happened. So there you have it. That's my little soapbox rant. That's the headline. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. When I come back, my one-on-one with James Coe. He makes his triumphant return to the show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of the Fan Show after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw. That Sky hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns. 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten. You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow. You guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? Just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how's there a puddle right outside the house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks.
Good. Here, listen to the sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ciccarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellects, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Pepper painting and pressure washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial, or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing, 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing, 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fan Show. He is the money, James Comack. How's it going, James?
It's going well, man. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. You know, it is the that saddest of times of the NFL season where we've said goodbye to fantasy football. We're now in reality, and for a lot of us, the reality is a bit harsh because we're watching all the other teams play from the comfort of our couch, but we're moving on. Divisional round. We look back at 2017 to see kind of where the chips may fall. There's been a lot of head coaching vacancies. Some have been filled. Others were wondering why they even became open in the first place and what that team plans to do. Looking back at 2017 as a whole, what would you say was your favorite moment that we were gifted from the world of football?
I mean, it was the Deshaun Watson, short but, spectacular era there in Houston. It was awesome to see. And if you're a college football fan, it's hard to fathom how anybody saw Deshaun Watson play and said, yep, this kid's not going to do well in the NFL. They go through the whole pre-draft process and they nitpick, and I get that. But it's baffling to me to have seen him play in college and then see what he's doing in the pros and have anybody at all doubt in the pre-draft process that this guy could play. But it was a lot of fun in that short span, and I hope he comes back with a vengeance, and certainly he's got the tools around him to make a huge impact in fantasy next year.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson was it was kind of two different stories. It was a feel-good story of the guy that, for whatever reason was not named the starter week 1, and then he got the job, and then he just lit it up, and we were looking forward to so many upcoming matchups, especially after that Seattle game. And then,
right.
The season-ending injury, which you never wish on anyone, but they happened. So we're looking for the comeback now, which will be the Deshaun Watson story of 2018. And I think for the rest of the league, injuries definitely soured the experience of 2017. You look at Aaron Rodgers, Odell Beckham Jr., David Johnson, and, not just fantasy, but people that are fans of teams that it's a fresh outlook on the season, and you have some high hopes for some of these teams and some of these players, and then to see that happen, you're kind of wondering, what happens next? And I think the fact that we were able to have as much kind of parity as we were this season was also a great thing from 2017, just because the Patriots were expected to come in and go 16-0. The Jets were expected to go 0-16. We did have an 0-16 in the Cleveland Browns, but
that's right. That's right.
There was a lot to sort of marvel at and say, I think we're moving in a good direction as far as teams and player-wise. Officiating, though, something's got to be done about that, and I know that you guys don't dive too much into that, but it's something that I certainly hope is addressed in the offseason this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt that it will, but I agree with you 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000% that officiating and especially catch rules in and around the end zone need to be addressed. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It takes away from the game, certainly, and these half-hearted attempts to explain it doesn't jive with what feels right. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they could get lawyerly if they want, but the bottom line is when Al Riveron and the officiating crew try to explain what's going on, it just doesn't work. So whether it needs to be a 3-person panel taking a look at this thing, whether it needs to be, this is my thing. I think you should have 30 seconds total to take a look at the replay, and that's it. And this is including whether if you're going to overturn it, go get down the distance, but all of it needs to happen in 30 seconds, period. The fact that they take so long, I think they're just starting to look for reasons as to why to either overturn it or not overturn it. It's craziness, man. But I 100% agree with you. Something needs to change, especially in the catch rules department. It just can't be this complicated. It can't. They need to strip down what the rule book looks like, and quite frankly, I think it should just be a lot more simple than what it is currently.
Yeah, it was something that I feel bad for people that, I mean, every year you have new fans that, they start following football, they start watching football, and you really don't want to sour those experiences on things like whatever the hell survive the ground means. And
yeah, they need to get rid of that immediately. that part of the rule book needs to go. It's needed to go for a long time. They just need to strike that completely from the rule book entirely. That one little clause in the rule book has caused so much controversy, and it's ridiculous. Why even have that? I don't understand. So we didn't have it before, and all of a sudden we have it, and now what is a catch is a meme. You know what I mean? So you can't have that if you're the NFL. So I personally would like to see, and I think a lot of fans would like to see that go away from the rule book entirely.
Yeah, I'd like to see it watered down. I think that it needs to be. Keep it simple. Simpler the better. The review is there for the deciding factor of if you see a guy catch the ball, fingertip catch, and it came so close to the ground, but now you're going to go to review to see, well, did it actually hit the ground, but not to see if a guy survives the ground or if he had this possession at this point. It's gotten overly complicated for what we use review for, and I think that that's something that they really need to change. When it comes to the change that they implemented this season, going to the home office in New York where the final play or the final call for the play comes from. Did you like that, or as someone who probably hears a lot of NFL conspiracy theories, do you think that made it worse for the league to have the final say come from the head office in New York?
In theory, I like the idea of it in that you get kind of a unified, view. You're not subject to various officiating crews. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you would think that it'd be a more consistent call, but it's not. And what they rule and what they don't, again, it's just entirely too inconsistent. And I think that right there is whatever rule you have to be consistent with it. But the fact that it's so inconsistently applied, it just quite frankly makes it ridiculous, So again, I know, the officiating crew there in New York, they're working extremely hard to get the right call. But that being said, the application of the rules is just willy-nilly. So again, did it work? No, it failed miserably. But the concept of it, the idea of it seems to at least work with me. But again, the application, the execution of that plan, I think failed miserably.
Yeah, it's something that in theory should have been a lot more accepted and been brought a lot more clarity to the league, and I don't know if it did or not. So back to the drawing board for NFL officiating. We'll see what they come up with for 2018. And as we look ahead, we've seen a lot of coaching vacancies pop up. I didn't agree with the firing of Del Rio, but when you have the now $100 million man, John Gruden, in your at your disposal and ready to make a comeback, you can't really say no. But the Seahawks have parted ways with offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell. Being someone who lives in Washington, I know that is a hallelujah amen for a lot of Seahawks around here. And then you have guys like Marvin Lewis, who is staying in Cincinnati, and then you have Andy Reid, who I don't know what his fate is with Kansas City, but he's got to go down as one of the best regular season coaches of all time. But if you want to win in the postseason, I don't know if he's your guy, and I'm not sure what to do with Kansas City. What's been the biggest surprise so far for you?
I think the biggest surprise certainly is Marvin Lewis being retained in Cincinnati. That just, to me, didn't make any sense. I don't think it made sense to damn near anybody. So a true head-scratcher there in Cincinnati. I didn't really understand it. And quite frankly, it's funny, man. Like, he might not even survive next year. If they come out the gate slow and they come out and have a 6-10 season or worse, I would not be surprised at all if they just fired Marvin Lewis, which is just baffling, considering the amount of exciting new young faces that are out there right now. Cincinnati holding on to Marvin Lewis, who again I think is a good guy, and but the game has passed him by. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but I just feel as if the game has passed him by. He's been in Cincinnati for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I feel as if the league has caught up with them. Certainly, look, man, they lost 2/5 of their starting offensive line, and both guys were really, really good. Andrew Whitworth on the left tackle side, and then Kevin Zeitler, in the middle. They lost both of them in the offseason, and not a lot was made of it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but that's where it starts. They couldn't run the ball. Marvin Lewis wants to run the ball and play good defense. The defense came to play this season. I thought they had a really, really good defense. Their run game was completely and utterly non-existent, and I don't think you can necessarily put it on the running backs. Certainly they have some fault to bear, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that their offensive line was in transition. But, again, why Cincinnati decided to bring back Marvin Lewis, again, with a slew of really interesting head coaching names out there, I just don't get it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the people that I've talked to since the regular season officially wrapped up, we were going over where, if we were a head coach looking, or if we were a coach looking for a head coaching job, where we would want to go as far as the teams that had openings. And then, how does one find a good head coach now? Because Seattle seems to have gotten lucky in recruiting from the college ranks in Pete Carroll. Granted that he did have his stints in the pros, and then of course you've got so many of these older tenured coaches that have been around the league for forever, the guys that you can promote from a defensive or offensive coordinator standpoint. But I feel like Sean McVay kind of changed the game as we know it, because the game is ever changing, despite the fact that some things will never change, i.e. having a good defense. I mean, look at Jacksonville and what that did for them so far this season. But you have to have a coach that's got like a look to tomorrow kind of mindset, a young and hungry kind of guy. And I think that that's what we saw out of Sean McVay. And I don't know how you find the next Sean McVay, but I think a lot of these younger guys need to get a second look and maybe even an opportunity to prove that they can be the next generation.
So head coaching to me is interesting because a lot of it is organization and practice time, and some of it I think it's at least 50% is organizational, right? So and 50% of it is game day, prep and execution on game day. All right. So a lot of fans look at play calling or whatever it might be and say, oh well, this, that, is. You have to understand. Guys like Sean McVay, they're extremely detail-oriented, right? Pete Carroll, extremely detail-oriented. Bill Belichick, noted guy. I mean, he literally has his practices scheduled by the minute, okay?
Yeah.
So for me, you're right. It's going to be – you got to find guys who are dedicated, but finding the Sean McVays of the world – that's tough. Like, I get that Matt Nagy went to, Chicago and had a meteoric rise through the Kansas City, coaching staff. But is he organized? Is he going to be the kind of guy that has every minute planned out? Has he thought about how to get these guys to execute? Because, keep in mind, there's been a lot of young guys that have not worked out too. Adam Gase, a young guy, his stint in Miami has not been good. And, you could give him a pass for whatever reason, but bottom line is the last two seasons have not been good in Miami. Then you take a look up in New York. Ben McAdoo was another guy that was thought to be a really, he's a pretty young guy as well. obviously not as young. He's not in his 30s, but like some of these guys. But again, a young up and coming, coordinator that people thought was going to be able to kind of get the offense rolling in New York. And the funny thing about McAdoo is that he's an offensive mind, and just the offense absolutely imploded. So I don't know, man. To me, I don't really have a take. I know I'm supposed to have takes on everything. I don't really have a take on a lot of coaching decisions, just mostly because, again, I don't know what their organizational skills are going to be like. And that's not something that is, publicly available. So Matt Nagy in Chicago certainly seems like an interesting hire. I'm surprised and happy that Chicago decided to think a little bit outside the box. So we'll see. We'll definitely see what he brings to the table in Chicago. But from a fantasy perspective, I think in Chicago, Jordan Howard, I think all of a sudden, and Tariq Cohen especially, becomes a very interesting play going to 2018.
Yeah, it's going to be very entertaining and interesting to see where the rest of the chips and dominoes fall as we continue to fill the voids around the league. Gruden, his presence back in Oakland, I mean, sometimes just a new face there or one that you believe in can be all that you need to change the mentality of a locker room, and it seems like Gruden is that guy for the Raiders. But we've got divisional round football this weekend. Some will say that this is the best round of the playoffs that we get each year. And I know I went 2 out of 4, so 50-50 last week on my picks. What matchup are you looking forward to the most this weekend?
Well, it's going to be hard to get away, I think, from the one NFC matchup that I'm really looking forward to is the Saints versus the Vikings. And that's the one I'm the most excited about because I think it could be a high-scoring game. I think it could be up and down. I think it can be, a game that features both good offense and good defense on both sides of the ball. New Orleans, if you're just a casual fan, you've been accustomed to seeing New Orleans not be very good defensively. But, as we saw against Carolina, they shut them down for a large portion of that game. They've got the personnel now. Marshawn Lattimore is a stud. You know what I'm saying? Cam Jordan is a stud. They've got guys on the defensive line and in the linebacking core, and especially in the secondary. These guys are shutting guys down, man, and they're allowing the offense to be able to run the ball. And Drew Brees, it's funny watching the Saints. Okay, so the Carolina Panthers, they shut down the run game, right? And New Orleans had been living on the run game in the regular season. Okay, that's fine. Drew Brees is still like, all right, well, I'm still Drew Brees. I can still sling it. That's what he did. So they're a tough team to beat, man. And I really felt, starting in week six, I thought, wait a second now, this could be a dark horse Super Bowl team, just the way that they're constructed. So, and first of all, tip of the cap to Mickey Loomis, man, the GM there in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. He drafted defense. If you look at the last 3 years, okay, you look at his first, second, or third round picks. He had 14 first, second, or third round picks over the last 3 years. 9 of those 14, he spent on defense and offensive line. So if you think about how this team is constructed now, they're really built from the inside and out. So they've really invested on the defensive side of the ball. They really invested in their offensive line. Their offensive players that they drafted, if you look at it, I mean, it's Alvin Kamara, it's Michael Thomas. I mean, these guys did such a great job in the draft process, selecting guys that they knew would fit into their system. And tip of the cap to Mickey Loomis, certainly, for building a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, it's the matchup I've got circled, and I think that whoever wins this is probably going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, just because you've got Drew Brees against top 2 defenses in the league, if not the best next there to Jacksonville, and then you've got Case Keenum in a phenomenal offense that's done well for themselves all season long with him at quarterback against a much improved defense. So I picked the Falcons last week over the Rams because I liked the postseason experience that Matt Ryan and the rest of that crew had over Sean McVay, and LA's got a lot to look forward to.
I got to say, you had to have been the only person to pick Atlanta. The funny thing about Atlanta was they were dead to rights in Week 17. Remember, I mean, everybody was picking Seattle to take their spot in the playoffs, and yet here they go. They take care of business in Week 17, and then in the first round of the playoffs, I could not find anybody that was picking the Falcons to beat the Rams. But you had to have been the only one. Tip of the cap to you, man.
Well, like I said, there is something different about the playoffs. When you get there, you can either handle them or you can't. And I'm not saying that Sean McVay and Jared Goff and them can't handle the playoffs, but I think LA has a lot to look forward to where Atlanta had something to prove, and that makes them a very dangerous team. If they get it right all across the board, they can do anything. They can beat any team. But I don't know if what Atlanta team is going to show up each round of the playoffs, and they've got a long road on the road ahead of them. So that's why this matchup between Minnesota and New Orleans is so intriguing because if Atlanta does defeat a Wentzless Eagles, they're going to have to play one of those two teams, and I don't know what's going to happen in that matchup. But the AFC side, I don't know what to make of the Jaguars and Blake Bortles. I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt because I did not like them losing 2 straight going into the playoffs, but their defense showed up when it needed to, and now they'll play the Steelers, who they've already beaten. But, man, it makes me nervous because I just feel like, the Jaguars, they've got a great defense, but can that offense turn it on when it needs to? And that's something that I just don't know if that's going to happen.
It feels like it's going to be an extremely low-scoring affair.
Yes.
You got to keep in mind that the Jaguars did beat the Steelers, but this was on an afternoon that Ben Roethlisberger threw, 5 interceptions, I want to say, in that matchup. So I think that the Steelers have a lot of room for improvement. Meanwhile, I don't know where the Jacksonville Jaguars can improve. I love the Jags, and their defense is something special. That being said, if Antonio Brown is anywhere near 100%, if Le'Veon Bell has a good game, these guys are special talents as well. And people forget that in this matchup because the defense – listen, the Jaguars' defense is great, but Pittsburgh's got a pretty good defense too. Ryan Shazier, the loss of Ryan Shazier was big for the linebacking core, but in the secondary, they've got some really, really good players, and up front, clearly with Hayward, they've got some great players as well. So the matchup to me reads as if Pittsburgh should win this ball game because the Jacksonville Jaguars, what they want to do is they want to run the ball, and when they are in advantageous situations, they want to be able to throw the ball. Well, Blake Bortles, over the last few weeks, he's regressed. So if he decides if the Jaguars need to throw the ball, he's going to be throwing into a secondary that's pretty darn good. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a couple turnovers in this game. Meanwhile, I think the Steelers' mandate has to be, hey, listen, we got to protect the ball.
Yeah.
And if they protect the ball, I can absolutely see them. And they got to play at home as well, where they play extremely well. So I could see them, basically pulling out this victory. They've got special players on both sides of the ball. The Steelers do. The Jaguars, meanwhile, I think they actually play into the strengths, really, of what the Steelers want to get done. To me, I know a lot of folks are going to be picking the Jaguars because, they have been very tough to beat. But in my mind, it's Pittsburgh's game to lose.
Well, I know that you've got places to be and people to see. I did talk to your boy Adam Rank last week, and he is all in on Alvin Shinsuke Nakamura. And as far as his number 1 pick next year, have you even thought that far ahead? Do you have a number 1 pick for next year's fantasy draft?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a running back. It's going to be hard to get away from that class of running backs. I'll be interested to see what happens with Le'Veon Bell if they franchise him again. I don't know. It's tough. So if Le'Veon is back in Pittsburgh, I'll probably go Le'Veon Bell number 1, mostly in PPR formats just because he's such a monster there. But I mean, can you really make a bad choice? David Johnson's still going to be there. Zeke Elliott's going to have a full season there as well. boy, Alvin Kamara's an interesting one. He's going to be, splitting. Well, I don't know now because I think about the contract situation for Mark Ingram. If they let him go, and if Alvin Kamara, gets the reins, listen, sign me up. I'll take him 1 overall. Sure, what the hell? Why not?
All right, he is James Coe, a.k.a. The Money from NFL Network and Fantasy Live. I can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your busy work schedule to be on the show, but we'll talk again soon, hopefully this summer.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime you need somebody, give me a call. I'll be there.
Will do. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs. All right, once again, that was James the Money Comack from NFL Network and Fantasy Live. Always a great time talking with him. Definitely need to have one of those long, hilarious conversations again. This one was more down to business and the headlines, but I think if we can find a topic that we can just run with and he's not pressed for time and has a meeting to go to right after, then yeah, it could be another one of those conversations that we talk about for a while here on the Fan Show. But nonetheless, he is a great get to be on the show. Love having him on. He's always insightful and fun. Keeps it loose, keeps it real, and I like that. So thank you, James Coe. And that's going to bring us up to about the home stretch here of the Fan Show on this Wednesday edition. It's not Tuesday. It's Wednesday. So don't forget that you can keep up with the latest happenings of Spokane's semi-professional football team, the Wolfpack, right here. They will have a team building night, which should be a lot of fun. Their owner and coach, Travis, told me last night, he's like, yeah, we're going to have a team building night where everybody kind of gets together and has some fun, and he wanted me to be there. And I said, oh, you want me to host another show? And he said, yeah, sure, but I think it'd be even funner if we had you do play-by-play for the dodgeball game that we're going to have. So my first hand at play-by-play commentary might come from team building night for the Spokane Wolfpack in a dodgeball game. But hey, like I've always said, I'm not above any opportunity. I love to get my hands in whatever I can as far as the experiences go. And I know it's not the biggest blip on a resume to say that you did play-by-play commentary for a dodgeball game, but who knows? Who knows what could happen? So don't forget that if you missed any of tonight's episode or any of last night's episode or any of the episodes we had from last week or any of the episodes from last year, going all the way back to, I think, it was in the 20s that I started finally uploading them and doing them from Spreaker.com. And the rest, I don't know how far back SoundCloud goes, because I know that the first episode, that's one I have. I have the first episode, but I don't think it's one that is available for anyone that is subscribed through iTunes, SoundCloud, or iHeartRadio. I don't know how far back those archives go. So first episode we can do without. Maybe one day I'll throw up the first ever, the pilot episode of the Fan Show, which then was known as the Butt Fumble Show, and we'll see just how far we've come here. But don't forget that you can subscribe, as I mentioned, iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Replays of the show happen the next day at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on WBLZ Sports, the app, as well as the website. And then you can follow and be a fan of the show on Spreaker.com, which is where I broadcast live from. And then it also has a podcast archive. And then your home base for all things football and nonsense, articles, episodes, and the ability to listen live is thefanshow.com. You can follow along with all the happenings on a day-to-day basis by following along with the Twitter. That is at FanShowOfficial. The Instagram, which is The Fan Show. And then, of course, give us a like on Facebook, because that's probably the second best place other than the website and Twitter to keep up with everything football and nonsense. And that, of course, is Facebook.com/FanShowOfficial. Tomorrow night, we will have Tyler Knight of the Sioux Falls Storm. He has announced his retirement from the indoor game, the Indoor Football League. So we're going to have him bid farewell to all of you. It was great to get to know him over the last couple of seasons, have him as a guest on the show last year, and he's just probably one of the best guys I know as far as someone who you would want your son or daughter to look up to in a professional athlete capacity. A great guy. Sad to see him go, but hey, he's riding off into one of the best sunsets there is. He's a multi-time champion, player of the year, just so many accolades and achievements and accomplishments that he's got. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow night. Pending the storm and the winter weather, Zach Brunner might be on tomorrow night to settle up with our end of the year bet. I still don't know who the winner is. I'm waiting for Zach to tell me when he's available to come on and when he's not so busy with flurrysports.org so that we can finally do the final tally and give you a winner and a loser. And remember, it's not so much about who wins this bet. It's all about who loses. Video of shame, which I recorded one, not for this, but I recorded a video of me pumping my own gas to help the people in Oregon. I haven't posted it yet just because I'm not sure if it's worth it at this point. People of Oregon, I just have little to no sympathy for you if you don't know how to pump your own gas. But the pictures have been priceless. Some people, I don't know how they've even gotten their gas pumped by someone else before this. People driving up to the gas pump opposite of where their gas tank is and fueling up by stretching the hose all the way across there. It's just like, even before you were the one pumping your own gas, I feel like you had to know that. You had to know what kind of gas you wanted, and you had to be able to open up the little door if you have the lever there inside the car, and you had to be able to tell them what kind of gas you wanted. So, I don't know. People, when they panic, they get stupid, and maybe that's what's happening in the state of Oregon. So maybe I'll upload that. I have a few video clips from last night at the field house with the guys from the Wolfpack that I'll probably put up on the YouTube page. It's another way to enjoy the Fan Show. All of our episodes here from Spreaker.com get posted to YouTube right after. So not the most convenient way to listen and enjoy to the Fan Show, but it is another option for you YouTubers out there that is your primary source for content on the internet. We had Raw Monday night, SmackDown last night. We're getting closer and closer to the Royal Rumble for both the men and now the women. But this pay-per-view, man, it looks like it's going to run like 6 hours, like a WrestleMania runtime, because they've got the not one but two Royal Rumbles, and both of those take about an hour's time. So there's 2 hours right there. These pay-per-views are normally supposed to run 3.5, 4. WrestleMania is done like 5 or 6. And so then you also have a triple threat for the Universal title, Raw's Championship, Braun Strowman, Kane, and Brock Lesnar. Then you have a 2-on-1 handicap match for the WWE title, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens against AJ Styles. Then you have a 2 out of 3 falls match for the SmackDown Live Tag Team Championship, and that is Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin against the Usos. And then you have a rematch between The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, and Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins. I don't know if they've announced a women's title or if there's going to be an intercontinental title defense between maybe The Miz and Roman Reigns, or what they're going to do. The U.S. title tournament, that's a tournament on SmackDown, that concludes at the Royal Rumble. So all of this, I don't know how they're going to, like, my God. The runtime on this has me concerned. But we will have another roundtable discussion the week of the Rumble. So very excited for that. That, of course, coming up a couple weeks from now. In case you missed it, announced on Facebook and Twitter last night is that the Fan Show will be doing its first ever simulcast. So you'll be hearing me and seeing me. And my guest will be Elephant Gun Riot, the local band here. That's the week that they open for the all-female AC/DC tribute band known as Hell's Bells, who comes through this part of town every year, and it's always a great show. So we're going to do an hour special, live and on location from their little jam pad, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a turn-the-table style show where it's going to start off with me, and then it's going to flip to them. So I'll get asked the questions. So something that you guys will probably want to participate in. You won't want to miss it. First ever simulcast. Very excited about that. And then next week's shows, yeah, we've pretty much got everything booked and looking forward to the week after. So I'll get more players from the Indoor League, the NAL, the IFL, and the CIF booked as we get ready for that. And then I'll continue to get more great guests to discuss all the happenings of the NFL, as we're just a few weeks away from figuring out who will be in Super Bowl 52, and then, of course, all the hoopla and the media frenzy that goes along with that. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day to all of you. Best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's blood? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.